Hello everyone, today we are going to be talking about a couple of trade rumors around Ben Simmons over the last couple of days. If you do go on to enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And if you want to listen to all these videos in podcast format on Spotify and Apple Podcast, then be sure to check me out there at Run the NBA or click the link in the description down below. That being said, let's go ahead and talk about some of these Ben Simmons trade rumors. First up on the list of trades is going to be a trade involving Jerami Grant going to the 76ers and Ben Simmons going to the Pistons. What exactly gets sent in return to the 76ers is up in arms and it's debatable. Some reports have mentioned Jerami Grant, a young player, and a pick, hence why I have Josh Jackson, Killian Hayes, and a first-round pick. But Josh Jackson, Killian Hayes, and the first-round pick are not important here. What is important is the idea of a Ben Simmons or Jerami Grant swap as the two main pieces. Jerami Grant is going to continue to be in trade talks throughout the remainder of his Detroit Pistons contract, as he is a little bit behind the age bracket and the timeline of this Detroit Pistons group. And given the fact that he has played much above the caliber and quality expected from him on the contract, it is a very good value contract and could definitely help someone on the remaining 2 years on his deal. Detroit are not going to be winning in those 2 years, and they're just not, and that's just the reality of it. And so as much as I know, I've had Pistons fans tell me that they don't think he'll be traded, Jerami Grant wants to be in Detroit, Detroit want Jerami Grant to stay, and that is quite possibly true. It would make sense for Detroit to want to trade him, as Jerami Grant could get them some more assets as future assets, young players, future picks, and fit the timeline better to build towards what they are currently working for, as opposed to Jerami Grant, who there's no guarantee as of right now in writing that he will be back in Detroit. You can tell me whatever you want about him wanting to be in Detroit, like in the organization, like the people within the organization, like in Detroit, whatever it may be. I'm not as informed on that as some Detroit Pistons fans may be. Point being, Jerami Grant has 2 years left on his deal, and if you want to continue to build this roster or not just lose him for nothing, then it makes sense for the Pistons to want to trade him away. Problem being, Jerami Grant, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid just seems like a terrible fit. Sure, they all can space the floor a little bit, and one of them could play at the 3 if you really needed to, but Jerami Grant or Tobias Harris at the 3 just doesn't seem like an ideal scenario for me, at least. They're both best at the power forward spot. I think you're dealing with a little bit of lack of mobility there, specifically on the defensive end. A long team, but I don't know if that fit works as well as the 76ers would like, and may not give them as much immediate assets as they would like in comparative to other trades when you're considering the fact that they're probably going to get picks and young players, singular or plural, from the Pistons in this deal. So ultimately, I don't think a deal like this is likely, but ultimately it is one that the 76ers could explore. The second trade that we are going to be talking about today is a Ben Simmons for James Harden swap. What pieces that you want to argue would go either way, that's up to you. I'm not going to debate that, but I'm just going to talk about a general idea of a swap for Ben Simmons and James Harden, which is not the typical Ben Simmons to the Nets situation we have seen, because this would likely be as a sign and trade if James Harden were to opt out of his contract this offseason, which is quite possible. Kyrie, don't know what's going to happen there yet. KD's the only guy locked in with the Nets, and so it's possible that if the Nets don't end up having title success this year, that Harden wants to end up going elsewhere when he opts out of his contract, which could see a sign and trade scenario where Brooklyn get their guard to play alongside Joel Embiid, but the Nets want to get something in return for him. That's where I say you can argue which way the extra value goes, because naturally James Harden is more valuable than Ben Simmons, but if it's in a sign and trade, or the Nets are potentially at jeopardy of losing him for nothing, depending on what other teams have cap space that could sign him without a sign and trade, then it becomes a lot more in the sense of the 76ers have a lot more bargaining power, which isn't something you would naturally associate with the Sixers and trying to trade away Ben Simmons. But if the scenario for the Nets is a sign and trade with the 76ers or lose him for nothing, then they're going to do a sign and trade with the 76ers. So that is kind of the caveat on that as to how the value will get distributed, whether it's towards the Nets or towards the 76ers. But it's definitely a trade that you could see come to fruition and is not completely out of the realm of possibilities if Ben Simmons is still on the roster of the 76ers come next offseason. James Harden opts out of his contract and doesn't express interest in returning with Brooklyn and Kevin Durant. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's an interesting hypothetical and one that certainly has a bit more possibility, at least in my opinion, than the Jerami Grant trade option. That is my thoughts on a couple of the Ben Simmons trade rumors over the last couple of days. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and be sure to check out Spotify and Apple Podcasts for all versions of these videos in podcast form. That being said, I thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.